Today, I'm going to break down the difference between a 401k, traditional IRA, and a Roth IRA that is easy to follow and understand. So let's jump right in. Hey everyone, this is Lauren Mack with Hacking the Rat Race, and I would love for you to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos on money, saving, and investing. Like I said, today I'm going to break down the difference between a 401k, traditional IRA, and a Roth IRA. If you stay until the end, I'm going to share with you a mistake that people often make that can end up costing them millions over their retirement. First, we'll discuss a 401k, which is an employee-sponsored retirement account. This account will be set up with your employer, and oftentimes your employer will offer a match. So for example, if your employer offers a 4% match, that means that they will match the amount you put in up to 4% of your salary. So if you make $40,000 per year, then your employer will match up to $1,600 in a 4% match. There's a couple of good reasons to try and get the entire match if possible. First is that it's 100% return on your investment. If you put in $1,600, they give you $1,600. Additionally, this is part of your compensation package. So if you don't get the match, you're leaving the money on the table. Technically, instead of making $40,000 per year, you would be making $41,600 per year. Another way to look at this is that you're not technically just leaving $1,600 on the table, even if you never added another dollar. $1,600 at an 8% return over 40 years is $33,159.23. When you look at it from that perspective, you're actually missing out on even more than the match. As always, speak to your financial advisor, as I'm not a financial advisor, before making any investments. However, I always max out the match because I don't want to leave any money on the table. The maximum amount you can contribute per year if you're under 50 years old is $19,500. And if you're over 50 years old, you're allotted a catch-up amount so you can contribute up to $26,000. If you have a traditional 401k, then the contributions are pre-tax. This means that you won't pay tax on the money now, but you will pay taxes as you withdraw them in retirement. If you have a Roth 401k, then you're contributing post-tax dollars, but this money can be withdrawn tax-free in retirement. Please note, if you choose a Roth 401k and you're receiving a match, then the company's match portion is pre-taxed and will be put into a traditional 401k, and the money you contribute will be put in the Roth IRA. 401k can be a great investment vehicle because they have higher contribution limits than traditional IRA and Roth IRA, which we'll get to shortly. Next is a traditional IRA, which stands for individual retirement account. You can open a traditional IRA yourself through a brokerage firm like Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity, etc. A traditional IRA is pre-tax dollars. Technically, when your taxes are completed at the end of the year, the amount you contributed to your IRA is deducted from your income amount. The annual limit for a traditional IRA is $6,000 if you're under 50 years old and $7,000 if you're over 50 years old, which again is the allotted catch-up amount. As you can see, the limits are much lower on the traditional IRA versus the 401k. Next is a Roth IRA. You can open a Roth IRA yourself through a brokerage firm like Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity. A Roth IRA is post-tax dollars. This means you pay income tax on the amount you contribute now, but you don't have to pay taxes on the amount withdrawn in retirement. The annual limit for a Roth IRA is $6,000 if you're under 50 years old and $7,000 if you're over 50 years old, which is considered a catch-up amount. Again, you can see the limits are much lower on the Roth IRA versus the 401k. There are some other requirements and/or restrictions on contributing to a Roth IRA, and I go into more details in my video called What is a Roth IRA and why should you have one? I'll put a link to it in the show notes below and at the end of this video. I would like to note that the limits are for an individual retirement account. This means that you have a $6,000 or $7,000 limit depending on your age total. You can't say put $6,000 in each. You have to have a combined total of $6,000. You could put $3,000 say in a traditional IRA and $3,000 in a Roth IRA. However, you can max out your 401k and also invest to the limit for an individual retirement account. The way you will invest in a traditional or Roth IRA is that you'll find a brokerage firm that you prefer, like Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity, open a retirement account, traditional or Roth, transfer the money to the account that you would like to contribute, and then invest the funds in the market. For example, in index funds with mutual funds or ETFs. And if you want to know the difference between an index fund, a mutual fund, and ETF, then check out my video called Index Funds versus Mutual Funds versus ETF. Which one is best for becoming a millionaire? I'll put a link to it in the show notes below and at the end of this video. I know sometimes opening a retirement account can seem overwhelming or like it might be difficult, but it's really the same as opening a bank account. And if you have any issues or questions, the brokerage firm is always happy to help. I personally use Charles Schwab and I love them. They have 24-hour customer service and they are also super kind and helpful. Additionally, if you have any questions about what to invest in or would like to speak to a financial advisor, you can set it up and it's completely free. Other than being a super happy customer, I literally have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I'm sure other brokerage firms are great as well and offer similar service, but I haven't used them, so I just don't know personally. Basically, don't let your fear of setting up a retirement account be what stops you from investing and growing your retirement. Something else I would like to mention is that if you have a 401k and you leave a company, you can roll that money over to a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Do note that if you move the money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, that you will have to pay taxes on that money. So if you have a traditional 401k, then you will roll it over to a traditional IRA. If you have a Roth 401k, then you would roll it over to a Roth IRA. This is another area where people feel intimidated and overwhelmed. But again, both companies, your company's 401k and your brokerage firm of your choice, will walk you through the steps to do this. Anytime I've left a company, I've always rolled mine over because I feel like I have more control over my investments, and oftentimes there are more options. One mistake that people often make with any of the above funds, that is they forget to invest the money, or in the case of a 401k, telling their company where to allocate the funds. A retirement account isn't the same thing as a bank account. You can't just deposit the money and it's invested. You have to actually choose the funds you want to invest in, like for example, an index fund. If this part seems intimidating to you, don't worry. You can call the brokerage firm. They can walk you through it or even do it for you. Once you learn how to do it one time, you will see how easy it is and you can do it in the future. If you don't actually invest the money, this can literally end up costing you millions of dollars over your lifetime. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you can check out my video called What is a Roth IRA and why you should have one, or index funds versus mutual funds versus ETF, which one is best for you for becoming a millionaire. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.